Gangland boss Stephen Lyons has been pictured in an orange prisoner jumpsuit being escorted by cops after being on the run. The 45-year-old, a member of the notorious Glasgow Lions gang, was arrested amid a major multi-agency police operation which also led to arrests in Scotland and Spain. He has now been pictured dressed in an orange high-vis jumpsuit and black face mask with his hands in cable ties at police headquarters in Denpasar.
An orange jumpsuit. Simple cable ties around the wrists. A vacant stare under the harsh fluorescent lights of a police station. For the man being paraded before the cameras, this was more than just an arrest, it was the demolition of a myth. Because for over 2 decades, Stephen Lyons was not just a man, he was a ghost, a legend in the underworld, directing a reign of terror from 10,000 miles away. He was the Kingpin who slipped through every net, the man who ordered death from a sun lounger, the untouchable gangster who turned Glasgow's streets into a river of blood. But on March 28, 2026, in a place he thought was his final sanctuary, the ghost was finally caught. In the tropical paradise of Bali, a world away from the grim, rain-lashed streets of Glasgow, the reign of one of Scotland's most notorious gangland figures came to a stunningly public end. On that Saturday, Stephen Lyons, the 45-year-old reputed head of a sprawling criminal dynasty, was paraded by Indonesian police. His hands, bound by those humiliating cable ties, told a story that sent shockwaves from the sun-drenched costas of Spain to the marble-floored malls of Dubai. This was the man said to have commanded a violent underworld empire for over 2 decades, a man who survived assassination attempts and orchestrated a bloody, generational gang war that seemed to have no end. So, how did a gangster from the gritty housing schemes of Glasgow build a criminal network that spanned continents and forged alliances with powerful international cartels? And what finally led to the global manhunt that brought him down in a place he likely saw as his final refuge? To understand the man in the orange jumpsuit, to comprehend the scale of his power and the depths of his fall, we have to go back to where it all began. We have to go back to a single act of theft that would plunge Scotland's underworld into a war that might never truly end. The year is 2001. The city is Glasgow. In the working-class Milton area, a decision is made that will ignite more than 2 decades of unparalleled violence. The established Daniel crime family, the old guard of the city's underworld, controls a lucrative drug trade. But a new force is emerging, hungry and ambitious, the Lyons family, rooted in the nearby Postle Park area. Associates of this up-and-coming clan allegedly steal a consignment of cocaine, worth around £20,000, from a Daniel family safe house. It wasn't just a simple robbery, it was a brazen and calculated declaration of war. That single theft was the spark that lit the fuse on a brutal and bloody turf war for absolute control of Scotland's drug economy. The conflict that followed wasn't confined to clandestine meetings in darkened alleys, it erupted into public view with terrifying regularity, turning the city into a battlefield. The Lyons family and the rival Daniel clan became locked in a vicious cycle of tit-for-tat retaliation that saw shootings, firebombings, and savage beatings become commonplace. This wasn't just crime, it was a dynastic struggle for power, money, and, above all, reputation. For the next 24 years, the names Lyons and Daniel would become synonymous with gangland warfare in the UK, a deeply personal and venomous feud whose violence would eventually spill far beyond the borders of Scotland, staining the pristine beaches of southern Spain with blood. While the war for Glasgow raged on the streets, Stephen Lyons was methodically building an empire. He wasn't just a street boss, he was a CEO of crime, operating his organization like a multinational corporation. The core business was, and always would be, drug trafficking, specifically, the large-scale importation of cocaine into Scotland. But Lyons' ambition was global. He and his top lieutenants established powerful footholds in Spain's Costa del Sol and the opulent United Arab Emirates, creating a sophisticated international pipeline for their illicit products and a safe haven for their leadership. Their operations were complex and far-reaching, designed to obscure their criminal origins. To hide their immense profits, the Lyons syndicate allegedly established a vast money laundering network, funneling millions through a dizzying web of fictitious shell companies. They expertly converted their dirty cash into tangible, legitimate-looking assets, luxury villas, plots of prime land, and shares in legitimate businesses across Europe and the Middle East. A key strategic move was forging a powerful alliance with the notorious Kinahan organized crime group, a powerful, Dubai-based Irish cartel with a global reach. By the mid-2010s, this partnership allowed the Lyons family to tap into the Kinahan's global logistics and supply network, dramatically increasing their wealth and influence. Stephen Lyons was no longer just a Glasgow gangster, he was an international player, a kingpin directing a transnational criminal enterprise from his luxury bases, thousands of miles from the carnage he helped create. The feud with the Daniels was the bloody, ever-present backdrop to the Lyons' rise. It was a conflict defined by shocking acts of public violence that terrorized ordinary citizens. In December 2006, the war reached a new level of brutality. Daniel gang hitmen, disguised in trench coats and old men masks, ambushed Lyons associates at a garage in Glasgow's Lamb Hill area. In the hail of bullets that followed, Stephen Lyons was shot in the leg and seriously wounded. His 21-year-old cousin, Michael Lyons, was not so fortunate. He was killed in the attack, cementing the feud as a personal vendetta that demanded blood for blood. The Lyons clan retaliated with chilling precision. In January 2010, one of the most infamous murders in Scottish criminal history took place. Kevin Gerbil Carroll, a feared and notoriously violent enforcer for the Daniel family, was shot 13 times and killed while sitting helpless in the back of a car in a busy Asda supermarket parking lot in Robroyston. The execution, carried out in front of horrified shoppers, was a terrifying message to their rivals and the public. Lyons associate Ross Monaghan would later stand trial for the murder but was ultimately acquitted. The violence only escalated. By 2021, the conflict had spread, with firebombings and shootings targeting Daniel associates not just in Glasgow, but in Edinburgh as well. The war followed the gangs as they expanded their operations, turning the Costa del Sol in Spain into a new frontline, a Costa del Crime, where the cycle of bloodshed seemed unbreakable. For years, Stephen Lyons seemed untouchable, a phantom figure directing his empire from a sun-drenched, self-imposed exile. But in 2025, the foundations of his world began to violently crack. On May 31, 2025, the gang war that he had profited from for so long followed his own family to Spain with devastating consequences. His own brother, Eddie Lyons Jr., and his long-term, trusted associate, Ross Monaghan, were gunned down outside Monaghan's Irish bar in Fuengirola on the Costa del Sol. They had been watching the Champions League final when a masked gunman opened fire, executing both men at close range before disappearing into the night. The double murder sent profound shockwaves through the underworld. The deeply personal loss of his brother and a key lieutenant left Stephen Lyons strategically and emotionally exposed. At the same time, international law enforcement was tightening its grip. As police raids began targeting his network, paranoia reportedly began to consume him, with Lyons growing desperate to root out the informants he believed were betraying him from within. The walls were closing in from the outside, too. After being arrested and expelled from his safe haven in Dubai in late 2025, Lyons became a man on the run. He was reportedly forced out of Bahrain and then Qatar, quickly running out of countries willing to turn a blind eye. The international kingpin was becoming a global fugitive, a man with a shrinking map and no place left to hide. The arrest in Bali was no lucky break, it was the meticulously planned culmination of a massive, 2-year international investigation dubbed Operation Armurum. This complex effort was a joint endeavour involving Police Scotland, the UK's National Crime Agency (NCA), and Spain's Guardia Civil, with critical support from Europol and law enforcement agencies in Turkey, the Netherlands, and the UAE. It was a global coalition assembled for one purpose: to decapitate the Lyons organization. In the days leading up to Lyons' capture, the operation went into its final, decisive phase. In a series of pre-dawn raids on Friday, March 27, 2026, officers simultaneously struck properties across Scotland, in Glasgow, Bellshill, and Coatbridge, and in Spain, hitting targets in Barcelona and Malaga. A total of 13 suspects were arrested in the coordinated sweep, dismantling a significant part of the Lyons command structure on the ground. Police seized a trove of assets, including properties, luxury villas, and business shares, crippling the gang's financial infrastructure. This international takedown was designed to systematically dismantle the organization from the bottom up. With his network collapsing, Stephen Lyons, flushed out of the Middle East, was now the primary target, a man running out of time and options. The intricate web woven by figures like Stephen Lyons shows how deep the world of organized crime truly goes. If you want to see more deep dives that unravel these complex criminal enterprises, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. Stephen Lyons' journey as a fugitive ended where so many international criminals hope to disappear: Southeast Asia. Arriving in Bali on a flight from Singapore, he was immediately flagged by an Interpol red notice issued at the request of Spanish authorities. The global alert system worked exactly as intended. As he stood at the immigration counter at Glasgow Rai International Airport, his life as a free man was over. He now faces extradition to Spain to answer for a list of alleged crimes, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and suspected links to murders. Meanwhile, a manhunt was launched for two of his associates, Stephen Larwood and Louis Wangwork, who had arrived on the same flight but managed to slip away before the net closed. The arrest of a man described by one former top law enforcement official as the poster boy of organized crime for almost 2 decades has sent huge ripples through the underworld. His capture leaves a massive power vacuum in Scotland's criminal landscape. For years, the Lyons crime family was a dominant, seemingly invincible force. Now, with their leader in custody and their network systematically dismantled, the question is what comes next. The fall of Stephen Lyons marks the end of an era. But in the volatile world of organized crime, the end of one kingpin's reign is often just the beginning of a bloody scramble for his vacant throne. With the head of the Lyons clan facing justice, will the 24-year war that soaked the streets of Glasgow in blood finally come to an end? Or has the fall of the king simply created a new, more chaotic battlefield?